Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another Midnight Express. Wow, I can't wait till this is no longer the view that I open up with. I could go full on avatar and stuff, but I'm not going to go through that much work when we're about to transform everything. Like I said, I don't have a way to show you guys what I have set up um, over there, but it's going to be a lot cooler. All my belts will be out there. Everything will be set up. So you won't, and I'll be lit. I mean, like I said, but I'm almost done. I'm waiting for a couple more pieces of equipment to give myself the kind of view I want. So let's go ahead and say hi to the chat. How you doing, Vince? Glad you're off tonight too, man. How you doing, Slipknot fan? How you doing, Fourth going on. So yep. So yeah, this is another Midnight Express. For those of you who are going to be watching this later on in the day, seeing how it is aired at a very weird hour of the night. Midnight Expresses are generally when I go on air, um, non-structured show, 45 minutes or so. I try to keep it at 45 minutes. If you watch this show for any amount of time, I have failed miserably on multiple occasions. But a lot of times it's for the good, is because we get, the topic pretty much, dictates where we go. It is an open mic. So, the other night it was supposed to be 45 minutes. It ended up being about an hour and a half, which is fine. Like I said, as we get everything set up within the next couple of weeks here, slowly but surely, I'm going to be able to schedule shows starting in April that are structured shows. So you won't have to listen for your alert bell to know when I'm streaming. It'll be a pretty much set schedule. It'll still be a little alert bell to let you know when I'm on, but you'll be able to, if you do truly enjoy the content I we're putting out or I'm putting out, you'll be able to rely on a consistent, schedule from that point on. We got a couple other things that we're going to be doing. Like I said, more we're going simulcasting on both the Poindexter Lounge and Sci-Fi Center's channel, which is youtube.com forward slash at the Sci-Fi Center. But as we start developing more content, it's going to be a little bit more separate. You're going to be welcome to watch both, but there's going to be content that I think is more exclusive to what we're doing at the Sci-Fi Center, both on the store level locally and customer wise. And then those will be engineered strictly for the Sci-Fi Center side. And then the general, conversations and stuff that we have here, like all the open mics, Midnight Express, will all still be on the Poindexter Lounge. So, all right, who else popped in? Hello, Heron. Hello, Terran. What you guys doing? So, once again, not a real big news night. I know James Gunn had some tweets, but to be honest with you, they don't change anything. So I didn't really, focus too much on those. I heard some nonsense about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles about April maybe, but I'm not a big TMT fan, so nothing there. I watched Revolution bit by bit the other night, and like I said, I'm happy that FTR is back. Things like that. I thought this pay-per-view was solid. Watched Raw last night, and once again, I'm just not amped up for WrestleMania outside of the upper top of the card. When I grew up with WrestleMania, your opening match would be the tag team champions, and then it would just go on from there. They used to use WrestleMania to basically wrap up all their major storylines that they've been spending all the time on, and it was the top tier that you could get. It's just another pay-per-view right now. I am really looking forward to Cody versus Roman Reigns because that's the one thing that they have done really, really well. Um, Putting aside the fact that the Bloodline storyline has lasted way too long, Roman Reigns has held onto those belts way too long. The promotional work that they've done at these last 30 days with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes has been excellent. So I'm looking forward to that match. I would not pay old WrestleMania money for this, though. I mean, I'm going to be watching it on Peacock. I pay the $6 or whatever for the premium, so you get all WWE stuff, all their pay-per-views. But if this were back in the day and I looked at this card, I wouldn't be paying, 50, 60, $70 that I used to pay before they went to the WWE network and then before they went to Peacock. So, all right. Let's see. Audio's cutting out. All right, cool. I don't know if that's StreamYard or me, but I think let me make a test here and see audio. Testing. Okay, we're good there. It might be StreamYard. StreamYard's been blinking on and off. Like I said, as I get smarter with this whole streaming thing, I am going to start playing around with other, other things. I know some people use OBS. I know some people use Live. My sister uses Live Pigeon, but she's also, she also has experience with other ones. But StreamYard lately has been changing up some things. And for a guy like me who's just getting his feet wet in this, change is not what you want to be fucking dealing with. So, all right. Oh, it was on you. I would have totally believed if it was me. All right, let's go. Let's see. Yeah, so pretty slow, pretty mellow day. Um, for me on my side, I'm getting ready. Like I said, March. For me, March is going to truly be madness. As I've expressed before, like this weekend, I have a Rocky Horror Picture Show demonstration at one of our neighbors in our plaza. A week after that, we have Project Ripper, which we had to postpone from January 13th because of rain. So we will not be postponing it again. So what Project Ripper is we reenact all 5 of the Ripper murders. We turn our home plaza, which is a 2-story plaza with an open courtyard, into Whitechapel for a 2-day period, and we invite guests to come in and solve the Ripper murders. We leave evidence. We have crime scenes. We have an autopsy. We have an evidence room, so it's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be happening March 17th and 18th. After that, we have a live wrestling event. Literally, these guys are coming in and setting up a legit measure wrestling ring. Big Valley Wrestling, one of the local wrestling companies here in town, is putting on a free show for us right in the middle of that very same courtyard where we're going to line it with dead bodies for Project Ripper. A week later, it's going to have a ring in there for people to wrestle on. We're championships and stuff. We're going to be online. I'll be there acting and looking like the fool you think I should be, belts and all. And then a week after that, we have Traumania. We'll be bringing out Lloyd Kaufman, and we got a lot of trauma stuffed into a very short time for a very cheap price. So Lloyd will be out here signing stuff. We'll be premiering 2 trauma movies that have not been seen on in Las Vegas yet, which is Shakespeare's Shitstorm and Eating Miss Campbell. So those will be their favorite Vegas premieres, and Lloyd Kaufman, founder of Trauma, will be here. So big week for me, not on YouTube, but a big overall week for me. So all right, OBS is great. Voicemeeter is great for audio, but takes a bit of practice. Yeah, and like I said, I'm still getting used to it. If StreamYard would have just stayed the same, I would have been okay. But they have just instituted a lot of different changes. So I think I have. That's way back. I think I have. That's a very familiar name title. I think I have. No, I actually don't act, Monkey Jeebus. I am actually just a producer. I make sure that the show happens. I make sure that everything is there. I make sure that the props are built. I make sure that they do have the costumes and everything else. I make sure we have a place to perform. So I am everything but the onstage personality. Like I said, we want people to come to the show, and me dressing up as Frank is not going to keep them there. So. All right, everybody's saying hi to each other. Live oil wrestling? No oil wrestling. However, back in maybe 10, 12 years ago, we did a fake blood wrestling show. I got pictures about that, and it was back when we did our live. But that's actually something we did. We used to do a Saturday night show where you interacted with the movie, and we had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And one of the things we would you would answer questions during the show, and we would throw you packets of Top Ramen or top Pop Tarts or something like that. It was like years and years ago. We're gonna be bringing something like that back, except we didn't have streaming then. So I'm gonna bring that back. It's called Kill Count Cinema. And that's going to be something we're bringing back. And next time I'm going to live stream it. But then we were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But we actually set up a pool. With fake blood. And then we had chicks wrestling in it. It was, back in like 2011, 2012. It's quite a while ago. It was hilarious, though. How you doing, Spider-Man? My last name is Rhodes, so I've always been a big fan of that family in wrestling, even though I don't watch it much these days. Yeah, and I grew up on Dusty Rhodes. I grew up on Dusty Rhodes. He was the everyman. Growing up watching Mid South Wrestling, watching NWA, him and Ric Flair going at it in his speeches, and like I said, I almost threw up in my mouth when I saw him in WWE wearing that polka dotted yellow suit that they made him wear. It hurt my eyes. You should combine the events. You figure out Jack the Ripper is, and you get to wrestle him in oil. What? Well, there's no oil wrestling to combine it to, so there you go. Hold on, I gotta make that. Find it here. Oh, good. Nights of StreamYards to let everybody know I'm live. 12 minutes into the show. That's awesome. All right. And their birth names is Ronald. I thought Cody changed it officially to Rhodes. Yeah. Got Dustin Reynolds. His, Virgil Reynolds is Dusty Rhodes' real name. Dustin Reynolds is his brother's name, and Cody Reynolds is his name. But yeah, the American Dream, boy. William, if you're ready for Streamlabs OBS, it has a built-in function to bring up to 3 or 4 guests and super easy to use. I'll give it a try. I downloaded OBS and I felt like the dumbest person in the world trying to figure out OBS. Is there a version of Streamlabs that makes it easier? Because like I said, I felt like I needed to be going to NASA for advice on that one. It's like $19 a month cheaper for annual. Actually, I'll look into that because I'm always looking for better answers. Yes, I'm always looking forward to anything Ring of Honor puts out. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Supercard of Honor. I'm really looking forward to seeing him treat it like Ring of Honor instead of an attachment of AEW. And I understand he had to do what he had to do to get the exposure because he was trying to get a TV deal. I still hope he doesn't give up on a TV deal, and I really wish Warner Brothers Discovery would put it on one of their networks. But right now, I really like the direction of Ring of Honor. It has as much of the look and feel of the old Ring of Honor prior to under the Sinclair broadcasting team as it did. But like I said, I still think they could go a lot further with it. The hard time speech. Hard time speech when he came out in that speech on Saturday night afternoon. NWA. NWA when it was it used to have a Saturday show at 3:00, which was their main show. And back in that era, your main wrestling shows, period, no matter where you were in America, were on Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning. WWF had Superstars of Wrestling, and that was their main show. Even though you had Monday Night Wrestling with Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, that was just a wrap-up show, and they would show you some house show stuff. But your main day for professional wrestling, for no matter who you were, was Saturday. And then you had some shows on Sunday. Both NWA and WWE had like an hour-long show on Sunday, but the main show for NWA was Saturday night at 3:00, 3:05 TBS time. And Dusty Rhodes gave, if you want, you can Google Hard Times by Dusty Rhodes. It's the speech he gave, during his feud with Ric Flair. So that's my favorite Dusty memory. Early reactions for John Wick 4 are coming in, and they're really positive. Looking forward to dropping. But also, what kind of promo does Sci-Fi Center do for something like John Wick? Let's see. I will show you what kind of stuff that we do for John Wick. Give me a second here. Let's look up. We're actually doing a promo. We're doing a special screening for it next Tuesday, as a matter of fact. We got some shirts. We got some gold coins and stuff like that. Let me see. All right, let's see. Wow, we got a lot. I'm just looking at the stuff we have coming up this week, and it's just wild. All right, let's see. Oh, here, go ahead and do this. All right, so let's share screen. Go ahead and get rid of that for you. Present, share screen. It just used to be so much easier. Share screen. Yes, I know. All right, here we go. All right, so we got shirts like this, and it's a T-shirt. If you can see that, it's his necktie and his thing. So we got a few shirts like that that we'll be giving away to some locals here. Let's see what else we got. We have. Oh, that's the no surrender stuff that I gave away before. This is the same shirt that's on the back. That's the, chapter 4. Let's see. I don't quite know what this is. This came in after I left. I think those are magnets. And hold on. There's the pin right there. And actually, you can't see it here because it's a horrible picture, but there's a gold coin. So there you go. And there's all my. While we're looking, let's look at some of the stuff I got going on. That's Tromania. That's what's coming up. Now, by the way, kudos to the guys at Troma Pictures who made this flyer for me. My original graphic, it's embarrassing to look at when they did this for me. This is from Troma themselves. Lloyd approved it and made him, had him tweak it. There's actually a newer one with the Vegas not covered up because he wanted it not covered up, but that's a kick-ass flyer. I could never do anything like that. So, all right. So, but yeah, that's what we're doing for John Wick. Plus, we're giving away about 50 seats to a screening for next Tuesday. So if you're in the local Vegas area, we're going to be doing that throughout our social media, and then we're going to go ahead and use my YouTube channel to announce the winners. So, but that to answer your question, Aaron, there we go. Let's see, what's your favorite Dusty memory? Let's see, you're down on that one. William, tell me one relatable thing that you watched the show Barry and enjoy the trailer that came out today. I do not watch Barry. I'm sorry. Sorry. All right, Ryan, how you doing? Welcome. I'm also a fan of Live and Breathe and Die, Nickelback. Come at me. I don't care. I don't care. I'm a black man that grew up and love rock. This is a man. Hey, you know what, dude? I'm not a big fan of Nickelback because I think they're just, for me, they're a little bit too on the romantic side. But if you like Nickelback, and as far as being black, like in rock, dude, along with growing up with obviously the heavy metal that we spoke about on numerous occasions on all the streams that I've been on when I have the opportunity, there's one band that is on my bucket list that I must see, and I grew up as one, and they're probably my favorite overall band as far as rock goes, and that's Def Leppard. I literally grew up, and I will never forget the hearing Def Leppard for the first time in 1983 when I heard Fooling. I just fell in love with that band and every album that they put out. Pyromania is one of the greatest albums of the 20th century. Hysteria is along with it. I mean, Photograph is probably one of the greatest songs that, I when I get to see them live, when they come to Vegas, that's going to be the song that's probably going to take me, off my feet right there. So you liking Nickelback? No, because a lot of people make fun of me for liking Def Leppard. But here's the thing when it comes to music. And the biggest advantage I had was, along with a lot of other advantages, multicultural, was growing up in LA where we just didn't have these kind of barriers when it came to music like that. The radio scene was mixed. And plus, it was at the time, like I explained before, where MTV was bringing a lot of different music in the mid 80s. Even though they didn't start out doing it, they kind of had to be forced to do it. But once they did it, you had all these different cultural points. The same channel that had Yo MTV Raps had Headbangers Ball. And, the same channel that had Headbangers Ball had 120 minutes for alternative stuff. So we all got exposed to different types of music. But when it comes to being black and listening to rock or heavy metal, as far as I'm concerned, there is no heavy metal without black people. If you look at the lineage of the guitar work that ends up in heavy metal, B.B. King, Chuck Berry, Jimi Hendrix, Vernon Reid to some extent. You look at even you ask some of the legendary people who are their influences. It comes from those guys, and even I forgot his name escapes me right now, but he's for Damn Yankees and you know groups like that. He said if there were a Mount Rushmore, the only white guy that would have been on it would have been Les Paul because he invented the electric guitar. He pretty much invented the thing. But they trace their lineage all the way back to guys like Hendrix and everybody else. You ask Tony Iommi who his influences are. So it's our music too. So I don't know how it happened to where this type of music evolved away from us, but it did especially in some areas of town, or some areas, not town, but some areas of America. But luckily I grew up in a cultural center where, those walls weren't built up. But if you trace heavy metal back, watch some interviews of all these guys, watch interviews of Slash from Guns N' Roses, half black, by the way. Who are his influences? Go back to Kirk Hammett, ask him who his influences are. You're going to start hearing some very familiar names, and a lot of them look like me. So it belongs to all of us. So that's the one good thing about rock, is it does belong to all. And music in general. I mean, it is broken through to where it's no longer, in my opinion, mapped out just solely by race. So yeah, go ahead and love your Nickelback, man. Yeah, those days. I know you're talking about wrestling. Yeah, that was that's his best promo. I mean, and Dusty was always good on the mic, but I mean, it wasn't like with Ric Flair. Ric Flair, every time Ric Flair got on the air, it was like you were going to church on Saturday. I mean, Ric Flair's sermons were, I was ready to believe in whatever the hell Ric Flair was selling. If Ric Flair told me, you know what, it's nighttime while it's the middle of the day, I would be like, you know what, Ric Flair said it, and the way he said it, that's what it is. Let's do it. But yeah, those promos were great. I think Ring of Honor will work on True TV. I think it will work on TBS. I mean, why is it on TBS? What's happening on TBS in the afternoons anymore? Put it there, Yes, I did. I think the card is okay. I think the card is a really good Raw, with the exception of the Cody and Roman match. I mean, the women's matches on all the pay-per-views are usually really good. So I am looking forward to Bianca Belair going against Asuka, Charlotte Flair going against Rhea Ripley. I know those are going to be really good matches, but they're not WrestleMania level matches like when Charlotte went up against Becky that one year where they had the three-way with Ronda Rousey. That was the main event that year. That was groundbreaking. The tag team match, I think the tag team matches out with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens going up against the Usos, just to see them lose those belts. It's been too long. But everything else on there is just basically it's filler. It does not meet the level of what the standard WrestleMania set for itself. So I'll watch it, but like I said, if it had been back in the day where I had to pay $50-$60, I just wouldn't do it. I would not do it. How you doing, Azteca? I grew up with hip hop and heavy metal. My go-to genre is daily. Yeah, and prior to 1986, they were split down the middle, and there was a huge chasm between rock and rap, in my opinion. And everybody else is going to feel different about this, but my opinion, when Aerosmith and Run DMC came together, because they were both managed by Rick Rubin, and they did Walk This Way, I literally watched two worlds. Remember, if you watch the video for Walk This Way with Run DMC and Aerosmith, when they're kicking through that wall, that's not just something that they're doing in the video. They do that for a reason. Rick Rubin wanted to physically show you a manifestation of rock and rap breaking down the walls that were huge between them back in that day and era. after, if you look at guys like Kid Rock and a lot of the late 90s rock rap type of things, a lot of them were sitting at the TV when that video came in. For me, I may have known who Aerosmith was in the back of my mind. I didn't know who they were really. I knew who Run DMC was. And I know a lot of people who were in the heavy metal and in the rock that knew who Run DMC was, but would never touch it. It just wasn't their thing. And that Walk This Way allowed them, both sides, both genres, to reach across, and it created an era of music. It's still probably, in my opinion, Walk This Way is probably one of the most important videos that was ever made. So yeah, that merger was cool. Oh, come on. Well, you got to pick up mine too. But like I said, heavy metal and rock and roll is part of the black card. Right? Heavy metal belongs to the black culture as much as it belongs to anybody. It may have been largely represented by a bunch of long-haired, blonde-haired people with black shirts and all that, but that's just who was putting out that type of music. But if you look in the listenership of when it comes to heavy metal, it's a lot of us in there. But that music evolved from us, in my opinion. Hey, Chuck Berry, watch BB King. I mean, Jimi Hendrix. Who was doing? If you listen to any type of rock that came out in the 80s, all that tapping and all that stuff that was going on then, every one of those guys was influenced by Jimi Hendrix. Was literally doing things that weren't in existence. And you listen to a lot of heavy metal now, even Black Sabbath. Pete Townsend didn't even want to get on the stage after Jimi Hendrix did in the Monterey Pop Festival because he's like, I got to follow that. I gotta play Don't Get Fooled, Won't Get Fooled Again after he just set his damn guitar on fire after shredding it and making sounds that nobody had heard on the guitar. And all those sounds made it into the mid 80s. So heavy metal and rock belong to us as much as it belongs to anybody. I'll stand on that like a rock, man. Hey, I remember that they did a Spider-Man theme song, right? ROV play better stuff. Wonder what that means, sir. If you look at it, like I said, we're big. We won't give us all the credit, but if it is heavily influenced by us. I don't think there's any. I don't think rock is what it is without us. All right, like I said, you look at most of your guitarists, even your heavy metal ones. Hell, even some of your thrash ones and speed metal ones, they learned how to play guitar. They got their starts by playing blues. It may have evolved into thrash, but they when they picked up those 6 strings and that bass, they were starting out listening to blues, and then they took it from there. And if you don't say blues without BB King. So every one of these guys, and even the guys who are not directly influenced by these guys, really are, because the guys who they influenced them were influenced by them. So it's like having grandchildren, you know. BB King's Riding with the King that he collabed with Eric Clapton is a classic. It's an all-time great. And even Clapton, look who Clapton, before he got in the Cream, who ask him who he go watch some interviews to see who Clapton got influenced by. Oh, I remember that era. Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Van Halen, AC/DC, Going Strong. Not gonna lie, I really dig the hair band. Listen, dude, the mid 80s, Van Halen, and like I said, all due respect to you, David Lee Roth lovers, Van Halen to me is 85 to 97. That's the Van Halen era. You know, that's Van Hagar is Van Halen for me. 5150. If one of these days we're gonna do a top 25 greatest albums ever, 5150's got to be up there. Not for just its songs, which are awesome, but for what they did. They changed the face of that band when even Warner Brothers Records wanted them to change their name because they thought they couldn't go on without David Lee Roth. They ended up having #1 hits every album that they put out. So And AC/DC, believe it or not, AC/DC released their best album when, in my opinion, their best overall album. They had great hits on all of them. Best overall album was Razor's Edge. When they were done, people were hanging it up on AC/DC because they were getting in their 40s. And usually, a lot of guys, when they get in their 40s, they coast on their earlier stuff, and that's it. They just tour and they create greatest hits, and they create some stuff that nobody likes, and that's it. All right, Razor's Edge is in my favorite AC/DC album. Let's see who else you got in. Bon Jovi. Not a big Bon Jovi fan, but I respect Bon Jovi. How about ZZ Top? Sharp Dressed Man. The only song I could really connect with ZZ Top was Legs, and that's because they played the fuck out of that on MTV. But good band. Rest in peace, because they just recently lost one of their brothers. How you doing, Daniel? My other favorite music genre are funk, jazz, classic rock, punk rock, mariachi. Yours is as diverse as me. I mean, if you looked at my playlist and you looked at me, and if you went by the stereotypes, you just keep looking back and forth, be like, you listen to that. So yeah, it's good to have a diverse musical influence. Poison, those songs actually did it. Yeah, Poison, I was telling you guys before, Poison and Warrant, all those are a little bit too hairbandy for me. I had a full-blown argument with my dad about what is the greatest sequel of all time, Terminator 2 or Superman 2. We talked about this the other night, and I was of an age where, like I said, I saw Terminator 2. I was 16 when that came out, and I saw Superman 2. Quality-wise, you cannot touch Terminator 2. Terminator 2 is one of the all-time great sequels of all time, period. James Cameron at it again. Memory-wise and memorable moment-wise, Superman 2 is up there because my 6-year-old me would have favored that. But overall, I would have to say Terminator 2. But there's really no winner or loser there. Motley Crue hairbands are definitely pleasure ladders up. Yeah. Motley Crue, I never thought reached their potential because I think they had to fit a certain cast that was out in the 80s. And I thought that everybody on that band was a lot better, but they were just playing the role for me. That's just my opinion when it comes to Motley Crue. And then by the time they did, it was too late. They kept just, a lot of shit hit them. Nice people talking on this side of the stream. That's entrance. Yep. With regard to what you say about reboots, I think Batman Forever came out today. It would absolutely be sold as one. Back in 95, they could get away with it being ambiguous like that. Except it wasn't, though. Some people say it was, but that was supposed to be. People retcon it now and say, well, no, it wasn't, but it really was. I guess you could re-engineer it as one. By the way, Batman Forever is great. I mean, and then, if you look at Tim Burton's Batman versus that Batman, there's not a lot there. I mean, there are similarities there, but I really loved Batman Forever. Batman and Robin sucked, but I really loved Batman Forever. I loved the music around it. They had that song. I was just watching a video today, "Kill Me, Love Me, Whatever" by U2. So yeah, that one, and I remember them, like I showed you guys at the store, the promotion that they did for that. I still have those glasses 25 years later. WCW Cruiserweight division was underrated. Juventud Guerrero, I remember him. Rey Mysterio, Billy Kidman, Dean Malenko. You mean Chavo Guerrero? Yeah. Psychosis and Ultimo Dragon. Yeah. It's underrated, and then you had federations, like WWE that just really didn't take. I mean, they tried to come back with 205, but it just didn't fit their look. A lot of the reason why the Cruiserweight was underrated is because a lot of guys didn't like being in it. A lot of guys didn't like being in it because they thought that it held them in a weight class that held them from the top of the card. As long as you were a cruiserweight, you weren't going to be the top of the card. And it wasn't until they started graduating guys into that. Even WCW did that a while, but WWF definitely did. The best company that successfully integrated the lighter weight people into the heavyweight division was New Japan, because even if you were a junior, didn't mean you were going to be held down to always being a junior because you're a high flyer and lighter weight. Will Ospreay is a perfect example. He's held the heavyweight championship, and Ibushi and a lot of those guys have wrestled in hell for it, and wrestled in Super Juniors. And Impact Wrestling, they have the X division, which is for high flyers and things like that, but it's not limited to lightweight people. But yeah, a lot of the underrated came from the actual wrestlers, because they just didn't want that stigma. Dean Malenko wanted to wrestle with the heavyweights. Billy Kidman, all these guys wanted to. Even Mysterio ended up becoming a heavyweight champion in WWE, which I never bought because I think he beat JBL, but that was silly. I hated that song. I hated that video too. William, check out Dork Side of the Ring Sunday at 11. Okay. Sounds like something I would heavily be interested in. I'll click on that link. Thanks for the heads up, Juice. I remember people saying it absolutely hated Walk This Way with Run DMC, but it literally broke open rap to the main. It did. And be honest with you, it gave Aerosmith a second career. Watched all the documentaries and thing when it comes to where Aerosmith was at. Aerosmith had been around a while. They weren't selling that many albums. I mean, they had released albums and they had band lineup changes and everything else. Aerosmith they were considered done. They weren't being played on MTV because MTV came after what was considered their era. And when that album broke through, a lot of people who didn't relate to what Aerosmith was found out for the very first time. And sometimes that's all you need, is that one or song that reaches over into that genre and says, oh, who are these guys? And then the rest is history. And MTV did that a lot of people. Listen, David Bowie, the first song I ever heard from David Bowie that I recognized as a David Bowie fan was not anything from Ziggy Stardust, was not Space Oddities. It wasn't any of that. It wasn't The Man Who Fell from Earth to Earth. It was Let's Dance. And by that time, he was a thin white dude. He had cut his hair. He'd start, dressing in those big zoot suits. And that was the first time. And you know why? It's because it was MTV. If it wasn't for MTV, there's a lot of bands that I wouldn't I've never heard on. Because prior to MTV, if you weren't listening to AM Gold or you weren't listening to a rock station, you were not going to be exposed to that. Even though MTV doesn't show as many videos as they really, should. But during that era, during the 80s, they literally brought back bands from the dead, because these bands that were hits in the 70s and early 80s had no other way to reach, people like me. But when MTV put it in front of you, David Bowie, went up again. Heart is another band that was exclusively being played on certain radio stations. Once they got a breakthrough video, there they were, and then you realize these people have been doing music for 15, 20 years, but they're new to you because you weren't, the radio situation across America was very, I won't say segregated, but it wasn't overlapping like it was post MTV. All right, let's see. Honestly, feel that Uso should be the one to take the title off of Roman. It started with Jay. Yeah, I just remembered that. I was talking to a buddy of mine that this actually started with him winning the right to fight for the title and then, all that, because it was so long ago. That's how poorly managed this Bloodline storyline, in my opinion, is. So. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. Maybe some of it'll be reliant on her reception when next week when Shazam 2 gets released. I don't know what his plans are. Maybe who knows? I'd say 50-50. To a certain extent, but not, in my opinion, not very much. You can thank Jimi Hendrix's imagination and whatever he was on to come up with the sounds. Buddy Guy's sound is, even if you said, okay, say you admit that Buddy Guy's sound was a basis for what Jimi Hendrix did, there's no way where he went with it was where Jimi Hendrix took it, in my opinion. But I mean, that's what I call an argument of the ear. whatever you're hearing is right. If that's what you think, then that's right. I mean, I don't agree as much because I think Jimi Hendrix, like I said, was literally inventing things, and that goes far beyond any Buddy Guy influence. Anthrax with Public Enemy was another groundbreaker. Yeah, Bring the Noise. Yeah, I remember that. I remember they went on tour with them too. Black Sabbath started as a blues rock band in the mid to late 60s under the name Earth. Yeah, and Tony Iommi, his guitar sound came from because he lost the tips of his fingers, so he had to get that guttural sound that he got. But Tony. I mean, yeah, Watch Out. I think it was Behind the Music for Black Sabbath. He brings up all of his influences. Jennings, 1982. Elvis was influenced by. Yes, Elvis was heavily influenced by black players. And a lot of those guys, those bands that came out in the 60s, like Herman and the Hermits and Rolling Stones, unfortunately, it's part of unfortunate circumstances of racism and segregation in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. A lot of the songs that you hear by black people, performed by black people, ways segregation was going on, you were getting played on there. So the only way you could get those on radio is if a white person sang it. When you had the British invasion, like Herman and the Hermits and some of the stuff that they brought over, and even every British band from the next maybe 15, 20 years, you didn't have that sound was getting over to them, and they were coming over here with that sound. So that a lot of that sound that you initially hear, they were listening to black radio. They were listening to Motown. They were listening to Little Richard. They were listening, to James Brown. And that's heavily influenced them. And they came over, with their sound. So the sound that we could not, as black people, directly get on the radio and on the TV shows initially with us singing it, got brought into them. A lot of those songs, when you look at some of the songs who wrote them, it's written by black folks, but we couldn't get on the air then. So that's a good point. Eric Clapton, yeah. I loved and still love Linkin Park. All right, they are the band that was a mixture of heavy metal and rap. Yeah, they bought in an era that I just, for me, as they're not bad. I'm not knocking Linkin Park, but for me, even though I find impressive the union of rap and rock, when I'm listening to rap, I'm strictly listening to rap when I'm listening to rock and heavy metal. I don't like my rock and heavy metal mix, but I understand how important it is to people. Linkin Park was huge. Seven Dust, all those guys were huge back then. Yeah, it's just like I said, for an old school guy like me, I just never connected with it as much as I connected to the two pure forms that launched it. Let's see, Falling in Reverse. Okay. I remember finding Bare Naked Ladies' greatest hit album. I was like, what is this, a freaking single? I heard Bare Naked Ladies for the very first time in 1998. There's a song called Brian Wilson Dead. And I loved it from then. And then I heard, then all that album that they came out, Pinch Me, and then It's Been 3 days, and now look at them. When you watched Big Bang Theory, that's their song. That's them singing the opening song. Yeah, Thunderstruck. We had a hockey team here in Las Vegas called the Las Vegas Thunder, and they use that song as well. Best song on. I mean, they had hits on that song. Razor's Edge was the lead song. I love that song. Are You Ready? Are You Ready was another song. WWE actually uses that song on SmackDown, I think. She's Got You by the Balls. Money Talks. I remember that. And the opening riff to that. I mean, like I said, they were well into their careers when that album came out, and that was a big surprise for that to be such a hit. New Order. Terminator 2. Alien, like I said, another James Cameron sequel hit, man. BBS Uncut. No, I don't. I mean, Civil War is fun, but BBS to me, even with its flaws, I still like it. James Cameron movies are good. I bet his favorite movies are his own movies, like he says himself. Damn, my movies. You know what? He would not be wrong. No, I don't. In fact, why did you even bring up Terrifier? I need to get Terrifier out of my mind. Yeah, Metallica is up there for me. I love growing up on Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson, Godsmack, System of a Down, and Disturbed. Do you like any of those bands? I like Rob Zombie. I like White Zombie specifically. Astro Creep, Marilyn Manson, despite his personal issues that he's had and his accusation, you'll never get me to unlike Tourniquet. I love Tourniquet. That song came out in the mid 90s, and it was one of the few songs of theirs that I could really just get into completely and just get enthralled in. Godsmack, I'm not too familiar with Godsmack. I love System of a Down. There is a song called Lost in Hollywood that was playing when I was in deployment, when I came back on my R&R, and I bought the album. The Lost in Hollywood is probably their best song. Avenged Sevenfold, Molding Apart, Korn, Evanescence, Nirvana, Limp Bizkit, Papa Roach. These are part of my childhood and favorite music. See, when it got into Korn and Limp Bizkit, I'm Papa Roach. That was just a vibe I wasn't feeling. Those aren't bad bands, but I just wasn't feeling the rhythm that those music put out there. Evanescence was pretty cool. Nirvana was huge for me. Nirvana was huge, and like I said, I didn't really get to appreciate them while they were alive. I appreciated them more after he was dead, because once again, like we talked the other night, just knowing where that music was coming from makes all the difference in the world when you hear it. Wait, don't go for it. You have to watch them in order to. No, we're not watching Terrifier at all today. All right, let's see. William, I have a few comments on your other channel, so let's see. It should be merging. Let's see what you got here. Let's see. Are you talking about for tonight, Anthony? Or are you talking about another night? I'll check your comments. I checked the other day. I thought you may have left some, but I didn't. It wouldn't show them to me. So I wonder what's going on there. I was born in 2007. Holy shit, dude. Man, you're not even. What are you? You're 16. Oh, geez. Now I feel real old. Everybody, like, half the chat room should feel old. But I didn't like the band Sublime. Have a bunch of Jamaican artists that influenced Bob Marley. Yeah, Sublime, that was a great one. Bradley Noel. Here's an idea about the Flash. What if the younger Barry is an alternate Barry in the movie, and it's going to be one of James Gunn's DCU? That could be the way to use the Flash as a multiverse base. That's a very good point. All right. My top Sabbath albums are Master of Reality, Heaven and Hell, Sabotage, Volume 4. I don't listen to the other Sabbaths too much. I like I said, on a regular basis, I only listen to the Dio albums. So there's 2 or 3 of those. Remember Herman and the Hermits from Ghost World? Great movie. I don't care. I don't know how faithful the comic is, but I love it. William, as a rock fan, who are your top 5 underrated lead guitarists from the 80s and 90s that nobody talks about? Well, number 1 will be Phil Collen for Def Leppard. James Hetfield in general, because sometimes he switches over from lead to rhythm. So I would say James Hetfield, because you know him. It's Kirk Hammett's band. It's been so for quite a while. That's my opinion. Lead guitarists that are underrated from the early 90s. Jeff, I think is what's the lead guitarist for Pearl Jam is probably going to be underrated. That's 3 for me. So Rivers Cuomo from Weezer. Weezer gets dismissed a lot as just a power chord band, but they're the greatest power chord band ever made. That's ever done it. So that's 4. Number 5. As far as lead goes, I think most of my favorite bands' leads already get their props. I'm gonna go ahead and Gavin Rossdale from Bush. And I have to dig back because, like I said, all the ones that are in the front of my mind are already getting the recognition. So there you go, man. Highway to Hell, Dirty Deeds, and Back in Black are my favorite ACD. The Bon Scott era, I wasn't old enough to really appreciate. He died when I was very young. I think he was 6. I was like 5 or 6 when he died. Back in Black is one of the greatest albums they've ever put out. But like I said, my favorite ones for those about to rock. I mean, there's just so much AC/DC that just has legendary shit on it. Who made who? That song, like I said, Maximum Overdrive. That was on the soundtrack for Maximum Overdrive. It has one of the coolest guitar sections by Angus Young on there. All right, guys, I got about 9 more minutes. I never realized how much AC/DC was overwhelming to my formative years. Yeah, you just when a band is like that, you just take them for granted. Darcipio William Elvis loved blues music, but also loved rockabilly. If you listen to Elvis' Sun Sessions album, he had a mixture of both. He took both, basically created rock and roll with Sam Phillips. He created that type of rock and roll. Yeah, I mean, he's up there, there's a couple different people that if you watch documentaries from that era that you could credit with it. And then it goes into heavy metal, which is like, like I said, if you sit down and just watch a lot, you'll learn that there's just like a direct line to a lot of the stuff. But yeah, I can agree there. All right. Yes, tonight or okay, so I'm on my channel. I don't see your comments on the Sci-Fi Centers channel right now. I don't know if they'll pop up on afterwards. Anthony, I don't see you in here. So go ahead and just put into the chat whatever your comments were, and I'll answer them right now because I don't see them on my channel. All right, that depends. I was 23 in 2007. I feel old. Jeez, how old was I in 2007? I was 30. I was 33. Jeez. All right, Linkin Park was my introduction to the world of rock growing up as a black kid. All I knew was rap. It wasn't until my friend played a Hybrid Theory album that my eyes and ears were truly open, and I realized I was related more to rock alternative music. Me too. There are some rap that I will listen to, but it just doesn't get me like the melody of a heavy metal song. Like I'll listen to Puff Daddy, Victory. Victory is one of my favorite songs ever. I will listen to Notorious B.I.G. I will listen to certain rap, certain NWA. But when it comes to just melody and that music and that rhythm and that guitar and that just being overtaken by that wave, it's just there's nothing like heavy metal for me. Yes, he is. He is. He's overshadowed, by the overall sound. William Bell mentioned this, and I think it rings true. A lot of the younger, more vocal people that are anti-Snyder were too young to realize how bad how the backlash was with BBS. Well, a lot of those younger people were caught up in that Marvel versus DC shit, and most of them, like I said, the majority of the people who are knocking BBS didn't even watch it, in my opinion. People will tell me, that's not fair. You don't know that. Yeah, I got a good opinion, or not opinion. I got a good feeling because I was promoting these movies back then, and I knew what we were up against. I knew that these people had set up and put on their Marvel jerseys, and they were never going to give a DC movie a chance, and that created undue pressure. So yeah, that's a lot of it for me. So I don't think that they were at an age where they could really appreciate how much damage that they did to the genre. Not just DC, but they did a lot of damage in general because you couldn't put out in a comic book movie unless you did it the Marvel way, and I think that hurt even Marvel. Look at the stuff in Phase 4 now. The most famous person I ever met, Barack Obama. I met Barack Obama out here in Vegas back in 2012 when he came out to support the late great Harry Reid for re-election. And I met him at a school. I met him at a junior high school. I'm gonna say the first black president of the United States that's the most famous person I met. Other than that, it's just been like celebrities. I've met Doug Bradley from Hellraiser. I mean, I met Lloyd Kaufman. He's the founder of a studio. I met I met a lot of wrestlers. I mean, Jay White is a pretty big wrestler, so I meet a lot of people like that just within the business that we're doing. But as far as a fan goes, or as far as like, an audience type person, Barack Obama is going to be the most famous person I've ever met. William, what was the first cassette you bought? For me, it was Das EFX, Arrested Development, Tennessee, and Vanilla Lights. Appetite for Destruction was the first one I actually bought. I had a bunch of mixtapes before, but Appetite for Destruction was the first one I bought when I got a job, and it was like I first got a job in 1990. And in 1991 it exploded. I bought like 10 cassettes then because Metallica Black was released, Pearl Jam was released, Tim was released, Nevermind was released. So yeah, but my first ever one that I purchased on my own was Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. Little Richard is the king of rock and roll. Yeah, very strong argument, and there's not a lot of people who dispute that. Stevie Ray Vaughan, greatest guitarist ever. Stevie Ray Vaughan cover of Voodoo Child is better than Darth, you have lost your damn mind. And I'm partly know that you're trolling right now. You cannot be serious right now. You cannot be serious in what you just said. I'm gonna chalk that up as you're either doing a bowl right now or you're just messing with me. It's weird that basically discovered AC/DC. Yeah. You know what? And sometimes that's how it happens. You find out these bands through the weirdest roads, but as long as you get there, you get there. Yes, it is restored, man. William, if James Cameron didn't make the comments he did about superhero movies for DC and Marvel, I'd see him going for Superman or Green Lantern. I was so lame. I bought Godzilla soundtrack because I thought I wanted the Puff Daddy and Jimmy Page song. Oh yeah, what was that? Come to Me or something like that. It was, yeah, I remember that song. All right, Aztec. A lot of people think it started with Snyder Films, but it's been DC versus Marvel thing. Unfortunately, since 2008, when Dark Knight and Iron Man was coming out, fanboys from them both was going at it. Yeah, nothing to do with the action movies themselves, but just this tribal bullshit that they started then. William B.B. King and Albert King both said that Stevie Ray Vaughan was the greatest car saver. Listen, I know that's fine. That's their opinion, and that's a highly regarded opinion. And Stevie Ray Vaughan is not bad. I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan is great. Stevie Ray Vaughan is great. You could make an argument for him for the greatest guitarist of all time. Depending on what kind of music you like and what you're into, you could definitely make that argument for Stevie Ray Vaughan. You will not blaspheme Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix by saying anybody on this planet, living or dead, ever performed that better than Jimi Hendrix did. No. Most famous person, it would have to still be Barack Obama. Barack Obama is always going to be a hero of mine, simply because it wasn't just the fact that he was the first black president. There were so many expectations and so many things and so much scrutiny that he was under. He was the president for everybody. Once I got past the point that one of us is made it into the White House, and that's just one more thing that is part of our inclusion in this country after all this time. But the way he carried himself, the way he talked, the way his mannerisms were, the way his demeanor was, the way that was a president. When I looked at that wasn't just a black president for me. That was a president of the United States. That's how a president is supposed to act. All right. That is how a president is supposed to carry himself. And to me, he was a shining example for every person that was black, his age and all the way down. Because even if you're never going to be the president of the United States, and that's most of us, there's only 46 of them. If you aim for the things that Barack Obama aimed for getting to that point, you're going to hit a lot of good things. You're probably going to turn out well for you. So he lived up to my expectations. Obama, yep. William, speaking of Harry Reid, have you researched the Pius effect regarding to? I handed that over to somebody. I handed that over to somebody who I sent to AlienCon, by the way. And when they get back with me, because that was this weekend, we're actually going to do something on that. All right, because it's going to be rolled up into, and we're going to actually do a time travel episode. So keep an eye out for both of these things. It's actually not the thing we're working on, Larry. It's not on its own, but it's going to be part of some of the stuff that's gone on here in Las Vegas and in Nevada, and that's going to be part of it. So keep an eye out for that one. Sorry it's taking me so long, but you need this. There you go. All right, so I got about 3 more minutes left. All right, let's see. The Crow. The Crow has the best one. Yeah, Come With Me. I remember that. Speaking of damage to comic book movies not following the MCU formula, I think that played a role with the death of Fantastic Four, with how much behind. Yeah, everybody was trying to get that chip. All right, so I'm about to wrap this up because I'm getting tired and I've gone. All right, William, is there a difference between the cruiserweight division and the light heavyweight division? No, only the name. The light heavyweight division was WWE, and the cruiserweight division was WCW. They both had the 20 to 225 pound below limit, so they're the exact same thing. All right, guys, that's it. That's it. Because if I go on, I can go on forever, and I have to. And you can probably hear me fading right now. Thank you for being the best part of this entire YouTube experiment. And I don't know if I'll see you tomorrow or not, but like I said, we're waiting down the last days of you not knowing when and where to find me on YouTube. So I'm gonna fix that. We're gonna, like I said, a lot of changes are gonna be coming to the channel. So I hope you guys are gonna be with me for that ride. But stay safe, stay happy, and I will see you on the other side.